Sekeres and Price for Friday, October 18th, 2024, coming to you from the Nation Network studio, built by Arbor Lee, here at the historic Wall Center, where you can turn game night into a game weekend. Book your stay at the Wall Center. Enjoy an exclusive Sekeres and Price rate. Call 604-331-1000. Mention Sekeres and Price. Some blackout dates apply based on availability. Matt Sekeres alongside Blake Price, four-time Juno Award winner Mike Rogerson, hitting switches, conducting things. We got a big show planned for you after the Vancouver Canucks get their first win of season 24-25. More on that in a moment. But first, our Surrey Mitsubishi poll question: is this the year JT Miller gets league-wide respect? Yes or no? You can vote at the Sekeres and Price channels, X and YouTube.
He's only got 3 points in 4 games. This is not the kind of pace that will get him there. I honestly am honestly of the mind of, if it hasn't happened yet, what's going to magically happen this year?
Well,
Four Nations face-off?
Possibly.
Maybe.
But also, number one, he's too good to ignore. Number two, he increases the gap between himself and Elias Pettersson, where people go, oh,
he's the
JT
leader.
Miller's the number one center on the team?
Yeah. Maybe. The Four Nations face-off is, I think, the best argument for it, that he's going to get a better spotlight there.
Yep. Well, and certainly the American media is going to be all over him.
They're going to love him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Although they got a lot of guys that are like him. Like Brady and Matthew are not exactly shrinking violets either.
No, they're not.
Right?
No, they're not. So I voted yes, because I just think he's going to be too good to ignore. Plus, like, the totality, it becomes a critical mass situation where, you just look and you go, he's where in the NHL in points over the last 5 years?
But that's just it. Like, that critical mass has been there for 365 days.
But last year was the first year they were a good team.
Yeah.
That they were a team worth paying attention to.
Yeah, that's true.
And I suspect they will be a team worth paying attention to again this year. Like, let's remember, when you're here on the West Coast and playing those Pacific time zone games, if you're bad, you are really easy to ignore. Every Anaheim, San Jose, Vancouver, all of them. If you're here on the West Coast and you're a lottery team, and you're a lottery team early, and sadly we saw a bunch of that with the Canucks over there since the President's Trophy winning teams. U.S. broadcasters want zero part of you, and even the Canadian national media doesn't pay you much mind. Our poll question brought to you by Surrey Mitsubishi, where it's your last chance to take advantage of specials on 2024 models. I'm driving the 2024 Outlander Hybrid PHEV, and I absolutely love it. If you want to join me and drive this beautiful vehicle, you get a $1,000 credit towards winter tires. Interest rates as low as 1.99%. No charge extended warranty valued at $3,750. EV rebates up to $7,500. And at Surrey Mitsubishi, the first 6 months of insurance is on them. See dealer for details. This is while supplies last. And we mean that, because almost sold out. Surrey Mitsubishi, 13820 104th Avenue in Surrey, or online at surreymitsubishi.ca.
There's a reason why you see a lot of those vehicles out there. They are fabulous, fabulous cars.
Well, I used to park beside one all the time here at the Wall Center. And I'd be, it's a gorgeous vehicle. Now I'm driving one. Love it. Exploring all the bells and whistles. Let's get to our top story. It's brought to you by Yellow Dog and Neighborhood Brewing. Yellow Dog Spirits and Foolish Winery. Finally, the first win of the season. Took 4 tries, but 3-2 in overtime over the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. JT Miller, the aforementioned, with a beautiful effort and goal in overtime. It's his 10th overtime goal as a Vancouver Canuck. Only Daniel Sedin has more. Let's hear from JT on getting the first win.
A couple years ago, we went through a stretch where we didn't have any wins out the gate. So, it's the longer you go without a win, I think you just add a little pressure to yourself and the team. And it's nice that we can hopefully take a deep breath moving forward through the road trip here.
A couple good chances for you tonight as well, but take us through that overtime goal.
Honestly, Huggy kind of sets it all up. We want him to take it up as far as you can, and just to create a little less gap, try to catch somebody flat-footed, and it's just whether you bear down on the chance or not. We've been talking a lot about overtime lately, so we tried something a little different, and it happened to work.
Well, good on JT for remembering the bad start of a couple years back, and bringing that front and center, because he's right. And we talked about it yesterday. If you lose this one and you're winless through 4, then suddenly, the pressure does ratchet up in Philly on Saturday, in Chicago next week.
And now you've turned it around that if you win tomorrow in Philly, you've got 5-game chunks are generally how coaches think. And I've started to sort of think in those sort of terms as well to see where a team's recent form is. You win tomorrow, you got 1 loss in 5 games.
That's pretty good. You got points in 4 or 5.
You'll take that as a head coach. It wasn't like an unbelievable 5-game stretch, but it's it's fine. You'll take those 2-1 and 2 stretches every once in a while.
No pictures on scorecards matter, right?
Yeah,
it's just what's the number.
And as for JT, so I would love to see the stat of not only the overtime winners, and I know that stats don't believe in clutch. But it certainly feels like, and we've already seen that this year, the game tying goals in the last 3 minutes. Like, I'd love to see that combined stat and how that stacks up against the rest of the league, because I think he would be at the top.
Yeah.
Already got one of those as well this year, remember?
Yeah. Good players tend to be more clutch. Why? Because they score more goals. That Daniel Sedin is number 1 on this list.
Yes.
Yeah, stands to reason.
Yeah.
Played a lot of games here. Played a lot of quality games here. Also love what he said about overtime, because he played overtime now in 3 or 4 games. 3-on-3 overtime is tailor-made for this Vancouver Canucks lineup.
It should be.
With Quinn Hughes.
It's a cheat code.
Because
he's a cheat code for overtime.
You often hear of the young defensemen of Hughes' profile being described as rovers. We even talked about Brandstrom as a rover down in Abbey. This is the game where rovers really stand out. 3-on-3.
Well,
so he gives credit to Hughes, but then JT does a marvelous job as well, creating himself space and a shooting angle.
You bring up an interesting point. It'll be a while before I think we have to see this, but if you got into a wild and woolly overtime and you didn't feel like you could just alternate Roenick and Hughes, Brandstrom would be an interesting third option if you needed it.
For sure.
But
and particularly, they talked about the strategy and the tactics. Puck possession is everything, man. And they lost it briefly, but when they got it back, you felt great about their chances because of the offensive aptitude of the players they had on the ice, and of course the maestro Quinn Hughes. And incidentally, if you're not following Natalie Miller, JT's better half, on Insta, you need to get there. Charming video last night from the Miller household in West Vancouver, where Natalie has the presence of mind to turn on the camera as the 2 girls are eating their McDonald's dinner.
Because they can stay up till overtime at this time of day.
Exactly. Yeah. And she's instructing them, Daddy's got the puck. Here it is. Here it is. Incredible anticipation from Natalie, too. Sure enough, he scores. The one daughter leaps from her chair, joins into the celebration with one of the dogs. The other daughter is fixated on those McNuggets with the second dog. Half the family exploded in glee. The other half went, no, I've got some business to attend to here. These McNuggets are not going to eat themselves. Mommy got us McDonald's. That's where my attention and focus is.
You know what those actions told me?
Dad's doing something? Okay, great. The dog is also there looking at the McNuggets going, any moment now, I'm going to have my chance.
I think it was an editorial from that kid who was thinking, tell me when they win in regulation.
Yeah. Oh, it was a playoff victory, Mom? No, just regular season. Okay, yeah. I got McNuggets here. What are our friends at Yellow Ducks?
They've got it's been a week of new beers. How about this one? Coming up, actually, today, Neighborhood launches the Wild Extra Pale Ale in collaboration with New Country Radio. Crisp, hoppy, crushable. It's a brew for all wranglers. Perfect to share with your wild amigos. Join them in the tasting room starting today. Big beer release. And they're going to be doing it live on radio, in fact. So there you go. The wild.
Quinn Hughes with his first goal of the season on 9 shots, 14 attempts from the Canucks captain. Sportsnet stats had it. It is the most shots on goal by a Canucks defenseman since Alexander Edler somehow had 12 on November 2nd, 2013.
He was not having a 0 in the win column after 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
Quinn Hughes was like, nope, it's not happening. I don't want that storyline. Not on my watch.
Mm-hmm.
He was possessed.
He was. Kevin Lankinen makes 26 stops on 28 shots. He's now 1-0-1. Goals against average of $1.89. That's because of the overtimes, remember. And a .932 save percentage in his 2 starts.
I think he was a full goal above saves above expected. Like they should have lost 3-2. They should have lost.
Yeah, he was superb. I'll say this too. We'll hear from Lankinen in a second. 10 minutes in, 4 combined shots. Oof. It was not a pretty hockey game. Turned into a heck of a game.
Yeah, it was good. It was really good.
That was highly entertaining. I mean, we sat here yesterday and thought, okay, no Barkov, no Tkachuk. Things will probably be a little looser on the Florida side. Things tend to be looser anyways in October, particularly when you're playing teams from out of conference. That came to the fore as this game went along. Was watching with some friends, watched the third period with some friends. Bar was engaged. It was active with all the chances back and forward. Here's Lankinen after delivering his first victory as a Vancouver Canuck.
I'm not gonna lie, it feels great. Obviously, a huge team effort for the guys. I think we played an extremely solid road game against a great team, so I'm just really happy we got the win. Confidence has been really high ever since I got here. You know, I feel like I've been able to help the team with my own effort, and obviously there's still a lot to build on. But at the same time, you know, I'm just confident in my game and in the team game as well.
The thing I love about Lankinen here is he's continuing the backup goalie vibes, man. You remember Casey DeSmith in his post-game interviews last year around this time when he was getting his first starts and wins as a Vancouver Canuck? And the guy was absolutely enchanted to be here. So happy.
Oh, I see.
You could hear it in his voice, his body language. Lankinen sounds the same guy.
You need to have good vibes backup guy.
Absolutely. It is part of the gig, as Eddie Lack taught us.
And
Corey Schneider.
It's not to say you don't want more minutes. It's not to say you're not going to try to perform to get more minutes. I think those two can be independent things.
But if your defining characteristic is a searing competitiveness as the backup goaltender, that just doesn't play all that well.
No.
But here's the thing. Call him backup goaltender. He's the starting goaltender now?
He's the starting goaltender right now.
I think he has to be the starting goaltender now,
It's
right?
a tenuous grasp. Again, you don't have to overcommit to this, given what you've got in front of you.
No, it's the grasp
right
extends as far as let's see how you do in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
On Saturday.
Every win
you win that one, you're
gets him an inch further.
Yeah, you win that one, you're going to play Chicago too.
Yeah. I think, again, extenuating circumstances can negate that, but for the most part.
And the other thing about Lankinen and Chris Mason, the fine analyst and former goaltender in Nashville, learned us on this a few weeks ago. This is a cerebral guy. This is a guy who puts a lot of time in terms of thinking the game, sizing up the opponents, evaluating himself, with the full knowledge that he is grateful to have this sort of career and he's going to work hard at it. So, you know, when he talks about how much confidence he has personally and how much confidence he has with the group of players in front of him, you know, that's a pretty good indication that you've got a good player here who's going to help you win games, and that you've got a player who has found the right fit.
Would you be tempted to, as long as it's a decent performance, even in a loss, would you be tempted to throw him into Chicago just because it's the X team? Do you play that card? You have to see what tomorrow brings. I think if you're Rick Tocchet, but if he's still pretty good, even in a loss tomorrow, I think I'd be tempted to throw him against the Blackhawks anyhow, given it's his.
Yeah, you might go there as well. And I'll say this: good thing they won in overtime.
Good thing. Why?
Well, the third period. Besser's got a slap shot, point blank.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yes.
Hoglander off the post.
Mm-hmm.
Oman with the tip for off the Hughes pass. Miller's alone on the back end in front. Like, there were a lot of opportunities in that third period. I think you would have been really cranky if you had lost another game, especially in regulation, but in overtime as well, had you missed on all those chances and not delivered the full 2 points.
It's amazing. The expected goals for the Canucks had even strengthened that third period. It was only 0.78. It was their second best period in that regard, but it certainly felt like they had good opportunities, and they had, I guess the late second was there as well, but you had the right players too in a lot of cases getting those chances, and they still couldn't bust through with the third goal in regulation time. So hey, at this point, I don't think they're too picky.
No.
As we talked about with this Eastern trip too, you're not fussy about giving away points. It doesn't matter. Who cares if you give the Panthers a single point? You got your 2 out of it, and as a result,
yep,
you have 4 points in 4 games. You can sleep at night.
Well, good thing our producer here, Mike Rogerson, has all those Junos because he's a audio engineer, Blake.
Yes.
He's a mixer.
Yeah.
He's an arranger. Because we got a bit of a different structure on our show here today.
Yeah.
You got to skedaddle because you've got MLS on Apple duties this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So you got a flight to catch. So we're going to let you get out of here. We're going to bring J-Pat in, do an extended segment with J-Pat here. Then we're going to get to Rob the Hockey Guy, Rob Williams, and then we're going to talk about Vanni Sartini for decision day in MLS with the Caps at Real Salt Lake.
That's the menu for you.
That is today's menu. It's brought to you by Greta Bar YVR. It is our home for watch parties this year in the Canucks Army. First kickoff watch party goes tomorrow. Doors at 3 p.m. Face off at 4 p.m. You can get your tickets at nationgear.ca. We'll be giving away prizes, doing some trivia, and raising some money in support of the BC Mental Health Foundation. So come on, join us tomorrow at Greta. And of course, pregame, postgame, you're steps away from the stadium and the arena. Greta Bar, the place to be, 50 West Cordova, Greta Bar. Let the games begin. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Appreciate it. You too.
J-Pad next.
In a season like this, you never want to miss a single second of what's happening on the ice, and you want to be around your fellow fans, right? Well, Greta Bar YVR at 50 West Cordova, the perfect spot to do so. Hey, if you've got tickets, a great place to pre and post. They've got drink specials every single day. And if you don't have tickets, well, stick around and soak up the atmosphere with all your fellow fans, play all the great video games and air hockey, great air hockey set up as well at Greta Bar YVR. We'll see you there, 50 West Cordova.
Reporter, Mr. Jeff Paterson. How are you?
I'm good, Matt. How are you doing?
Yeah, fantastic. We'll start with the Surrey Mitsubishi poll question. Is this the year, Jeff? Fantastic goal last night in overtime. Is this the year JT Miller gets league-wide respect?
Yeah, I saw the poll question posted. Got me thinking a little bit. That sometimes is a dangerous proposition, but look, nobody's going to forget the pouting and the lack of back check in Calgary in that game a couple of seasons ago, or the stick over the back of the net in Winnipeg. Those are on his resume. That's part of JT Miller. But I think everybody deserves an opportunity to grow and evolve and mature, and he's certainly done that. I think the fact he was an all-star last year, I think the fact that he got 99 points 2 seasons ago got people's attention that, hey, this guy isn't just a point-a-game guy. Like, he might be better than that. And then to get back there and get to 103 last year, he's going to be on Team USA at the World or the Four Nations face-off in February. So I think he's getting respect around the National Hockey League. I think it's gradual. Yeah. I know that there are publications that had him as a third-tier player. Maybe we put way too much stock in some of that. And on nights like last night, he turns out to be a difference maker. Was he the best player on the ice start to finish? I don't think you could say that. I think Quinn Hughes pretty clearly was. But when the chips were down, the Canucks needed somebody to come through. As on opening night with the tying goal against Calgary, you turn to JT Miller, and he generally doesn't let this team down. So Yeah, I think he is starting to get his due around the National Hockey League, and I think if he keeps his play at a level that it's been really over the last couple of seasons, it's going to just continue to. He's going to work his way onto more and more people's radar for the right reasons.
Well, and this is why we ask, because you look at his point totals over the last 3 seasons or 5 seasons, whatever time frame you want to look at. He's right there with the top guys in the National Hockey League, and it seems just like respect and acknowledgement of those sorts of achievements have been a little slower to come, because you take a look at lists like top NHL players and where he ranks. Jeff, like, there are still a bunch of publications out there that have Elias Pettersson ahead of him, right? Who don't seem to understand that JT Miller is the number 1 centerman here in Vancouver. And talked about it with Blake. When you're a bad team on the West Coast, you are very easy to ignore, out of sight, out of mind. Well, Canucks had a good team last year. Suspect they will have another good team this year. And so I do wonder whether JT Miller is going to get more run across the league, national media, both Canada and the U.S. Incidentally, did you see that?
Quickly, I look, the 99 points a couple of years ago, those are pretty empty calories, as you said, on a bad team, right? And I think people he's just getting his 103 on a team that wins 50 games and 109 points. That's different. And so I think maybe that does bring him into a different realm. The other thing is, to get to 103, pretty balanced, right? Like, he wasn't a 50 goal scorer, and he wasn't a 70 assist guy. His numbers were close to 40, 60. And so when we're talking about the great goal scorers in the NHL, he's not going to be in that discussion, the great playmakers. But when we talk about complete players in the National Hockey League, yeah, I think you damn well have to talk about JT Miller these days as one of the most complete guys that can beat you in a whole bunch of ways.
Incidentally, did you see the video from Casa Miller last night? With Natalie Miller, we're going to play it here on the stream. Natalie Miller, first of all, great awareness from Natalie to turn on the camera when she did, right? Like, and then the kids celebrate. Well, one kid celebrate. One kid is fixated on those McNuggets.
Right. I mean, my takeaway from there is that I think the dogs were looking at the opportunity to get the McDonald's, right? Like,
they sure were.
Let the kids dance around the room, go nuts. Their dad's just scored and they won. Dogs are looking at that entry point to grab the last McNugget off the table.
Oh, we all know that dog. Kevin Lankinen, Jeff, is he now the Canucks starting goaltender?
I thought so after the Philly performance last week, and Tocchet threw a bit of a curveball to start the trip in Tampa, and Silovs was fine. They got the kind of goaltending they needed to hang in that hockey game. But yeah, I mean, look at Lankinen. Points, 3 of the 4 points that have been available to the Canucks with him in goal, has given up 2 goals in regulation in both games and a power play goal in each of those games. So just 1 goal against 5-on-5 in his first 2 starts. He has just delivered really quality net mining, as I think we thought he would. I wondered if the late start and the late arrival would put him behind the 8 ball, but I think that storyline is that ship sailed now. I mean, he's in there. He talked about how comfortable he feels. He's getting an opportunity. And if I'm making the call for Saturday in Philadelphia, absolutely. I just think that how could you go away from a guy that's delivering results when a team needs a little bit of stability in that position? The Canucks still aren't scoring many goals. That's one thing that has to come. But as they await that, you need that kind of goaltending that can hold down the fort. And, going against Bobrovsky last night, it was a question of who was going to blink in the third period and overtime. And ultimately, it was the guy at the other end of the ice. So, yeah, I mean, it feels to me like Kevin Lankinen. I know it's early in the season and not a huge body of work, but I think he has inched ahead of Artur Silovs in the here and now to be the guy that the Canucks probably should lean on if they're going to get out of this alternating starts of the 2 goaltenders.
Yeah, and Blake was talking about how because you don't have any back-to-backs here, you can give him a run, if so be it, if you choose, or if he goes out and has a poor game in Philadelphia, you've got a decent option there in Silovs for the Chicago game. So we'll see how they handle the goaltending. But I was also struck, Jeff, Lankinen just sounds so happy to be here. It kind of reminds me of Casey DeSmith last year, that he feels like he has found a good fit for him, because that was the one thing that you wondered about. He, was a late free agent, signed for less money and less term than he wanted. After camps had started, it almost felt like he was pressured into signing here because this was the best opportunity. But so far, it looks like it's been an excellent fit with the way he has talked about his own game and with the way he's talked about the players in front of him and how they've played in front of him.
Yeah, and sometimes it is a fit, and so much attention on all of the newcomers for the Vancouver Canucks, and Jake DeBrusk still looking for his first goal, and I think Danton Heinen still trying to find his role. Kiefer Sherwood with the 10 hits last night has settled in, but Forbert on defense, Brandstrom to a lesser degree. We're still trying to figure out ultimately what do the Canucks have in these players, but I think through 2 starts, you can see that they've got a guy in Kevin Lankinen that is going to give them credible NHL goaltending. And Matt, when you look around the league, and we talked about this at the time of the signing, Anaheim was rumored to be in, and then John Gibson goes down and out for the better part of a month. Good fortune for the Canucks to get the deal done. Boston, obviously, with the Swayman situation. You look at Colorado right now, they can't get through a game without giving a goaltender the hook. You don't think Kevin Lankinen will look a little better than what they've got there as a goaltending option? So the timing of all this, and give management credit, they didn't waver. We talk about Lankinen not blinking in the third period. It became a game of chicken. We knew that there was interest on both sides. Lankinen obviously wanted a little more, and the Canucks were take it or leave it. And ultimately, if you want a seat at an NHL table, he elected to take it. And so I don't think anybody's going to feel sorry for him making what he's making this year, but it's going to be a showcase year for him to earn a better and probably a longer contract, whether it's here or elsewhere. So I think he has to just look at this as an opportunity when he gets in there, and he's making the most of it so far.
Quinn Hughes sets a career high in ice time a week ago after Tyler Myers left that game early. He sets a career high in shots last night. He winds up with 9 and had a shot at the Canucks record by a defenseman, which was 12. I saw you were tracking that. Also, for a guy who wants 20 goals this year, Jeff, he has stated that, 20 goals, that's his aim. That means you got to get 1 every 4 games. Well, mission accomplished. He's on the board there as well. A thought or two about the captain's game.
Well, it's just funny looking at the graphic there. Like, how do I not remember a 12-shot Alex Edler game? And I was covering the Canucks when Jovo got to a dozen as well. And
I don't either. Jeff, we were sitting here, Blake and I talking and going, do you remember Edler with 12 shots in a game in November?
I mean, the punchline obviously is shin pads for days, right? Like, how did he get 12 through and on goal? But the numbers don't lie. He did that. And Quinn was at 9 with half a third period to go in a tie game. So I kind of thought that he would probably chip away and get a little closer. But yeah, 9 shots, 14 attempts. He's just such a special player. And I'm not telling people things they don't already know, but nights like that just underscore how impressive he is when he takes over games. He is a secret weapon. And you saw it in overtime, Matt. Like, the attention of all 3 Panthers are just drawn to Hughes like a moth to a flame, and it opens up half the ice for JT Miller with a head of speed, and he did the rest from there. Paul Maurice rolling the dice with 3 forwards throughout overtime. A defenseman didn't see. You got Aaron Ekblad, you got other guys, didn't have a defenseman on the ice. If they score and win, we think, oh, this guy's a genius. But if they don't, then he opens himself to questioning. And sure, he would have loved to have had Barkov and or Tkachuk as 2 of the forwards available to him. But yeah, I mean, I think you saw that the forwards, they're fixated on Quinn Hughes. And at this level, even if you stop for half a beat, guys are too good. JT Miller was able to expose them and get that shot away. So Miller scores, he gets the glory, but it was a first-star, all-star performance for Quinn Hughes. And even on that goal, it's just a pass back to the neutral zone, but it's the positioning and the attention that he draws that opens up a half the sheet of ice for JT Miller.
I mean, it's tailor-made 3-on-3 for Quinn Hughes. The Canucks should win a lot of games in overtime because of the personnel that they can throw out there. You're absolutely right about Maurice. I mean, you got to win the draw. If you're playing 3 forwards, you got to win the draw because you give up possession now in the 3-on-3 overtime. It can be very difficult to win it back. And good to hear JT Miller talking about how they had talked tactics and strategy about overtime after 2 of the first 3 games going there and finally getting a win beyond regulation. Let's talk about the other star, Pettersson. 4 shot attempts, team high 4 block shots. He had chances. He looked dangerous again. We had asked yesterday on the Surrey Mitsubishi poll question whether or not he was going to bump the slump, but a word or two on Pettersson, and if you think this could be at least a step in the right direction for number 40.
Yeah, these days I'm prefacing any answer about him with the bar is so low right now that hopefully he climbs over it, uses it as a springboard, and builds. He had the chance in the first period that I'm still not sure how he missed, but I like the fact that he's in front of the net. The puck gets to him. He's got a figure it out and convert there, but start with the chances. Second period sets up Jake DeBrusk on a 2-on-1, and again, DeBrusk still looking for his first goal. But those are some baby steps. I want him involved in blocking shots and hits and those types of things, but ultimately I want to see him putting his stamp on hockey games on the score sheet. So Canucks didn't have a ton of power play time, although I noted this on Rink Wide. He really is an afterthought on the power play now. Like, they work the puck to that left side of the ice, and it's almost like they freeze him out over on the right. And, if his contribution there is to be a decoy, he's too good a player not to handle the puck at some point when you've got an extra man out there. So power play is a work in progress. It had a little bit of success in the opening game against Calgary, but really since then hasn't done a lot, and didn't do a lot last night. The first power play, just the one shot on goal, and it was a long shot from Quinn Hughes. So I have trouble getting excited about the performance from Elias Pettersson, but maybe it's a different conversation. Hochletter hits the post there in the third period. Pettersson's out there on the ice with Garland. Great play from Garland to slip it across to Höglander. Maybe we look at things a little differently if that line ends up getting the winner, and we say, hey, at least it was in on that play. He makes a little touch pass at the blue line. All those kinds of things, but very much a work in progress here. Bottom line is they won the hockey game, and maybe that alleviates a little bit of pressure on all of them, Pettersson included. So on to Philadelphia. There's more there. You just want to see it sooner rather than later.
Going to read the JT Miller quote about Connor Garland and then ask you about how the tweet you put out about how you'd reordered the top six. Miller on Garland, quote, he's probably playing the best hockey of his career right now. That's what Vancouver's saying. I'm just really happy he's playing well. I know you didn't take in all of his career in Arizona, but you tell me, is this the best he has looked as a Vancouver Canuck? And you say you'd stick with Höglander, Pettersson, and Garland, move DeBrusk up with Miller and Besser for next game. So a little bit more of a loaded up top six as opposed to a spread it out top nine.
I'm just glad that JT is giving Vancouver its props. He's in tune with what Vancouver collectively, I guess, the city is saying about Connor Garland, who to me had been the best Canuck through the first three games. I thought it was a slightly muted performance from Garland last night, but his motor's always going. Connor Garland was fine last night. I just don't think his game was at the level it was earlier in the first three. But I like the idea of Elias Pettersson being forced to keep up with two guys whose work rate is super high. And I think, yes, it's nuts that we're talking about others having to bring out the best in an $11.6 million player, but that's where we are right now. Like, at the end of the season, if we're still having this conversation, then things have gone completely sideways. But in the short term, when it's not happening for Pettersson, put him with some guys that are always going to be working hard, force him to sort of up his work rate in that regard. And in the early going, hadn't really seen a lot between Pettersson and DeBrusk. So if you're moving Jake DeBrusk around, still trying to find the right fit for him, stylistically, I think he and JT Miller could work well and read off each other. But look, the Archdeep Bains story is a terrific one. Local boy, makes the team he grew up watching, makes it to the NHL. But Matt, he's 10 games in, doesn't have a point, doesn't profile as any kind of scorer at this level yet. He has at lower levels, and maybe he'll get there. But in the top six, not for me right now. And at some point, if Archdeep's going to carve out a long NHL career, he's got to get past the local boy does good and find a way to impact these hockey games more than he is. And so,
I was very surprised. Blake and I were very surprised to see that yesterday out of Coach, that Bains would get the real estate beside, as opposed to your big free agent who you've saddled down the lineup with guys who are less likely to help his offense in DeBrusk.
Well, yeah, I mean, DeBrusk drops and Sprong has sat out twice. And interesting that Sprong plays the home games where they could shelter him a little bit and hasn't played the road game. I don't think the season's not going to go that way. He's not going to play 41 home games and none on the road. But I do think in the early going, given what we've seen in the one miscue, certainly against Philadelphia that led to a goal, I think Rick Tocchet some reservations about playing him on the road. But then you're plugging Archdeep Bains in, you're plugging Nils Amon in. Not much of a bottom line from those guys. And I know Amon had a point last night, but you got to get Sprong back in there, I would think, Saturday night.
Yeah. And we have some fun with you and Rob and your Twitter fight about that yesterday. We'll see where Sprong winds up. As you say, goals are still, I think, more the problem the team's defensive posture. What did you think of Brandstrom, and what did you think of the fact he played with Myers and they reordered there as well with Carson Soucy playing with Desharnais?
Well, yeah, except that that's not really the way it shook down. They warmed up that way, and I don't know if Rick Tocchet was just throwing a bit of a curve at Paul Maurice, but Brandstrom ended up playing with Desharnais for most of his shifts, and then in the third period, barely played as they shortened the bench in a tight game. Not a surprise there. Look, this guy, his 24 hours or 48 hours from Abbotsford to Vancouver, a cross-continent flight, gets in late to South Florida, and then no morning skate with this new team that's acquired him. So really sight unseen until warm-up, and gets plugged in with a guy that he ends up not playing many shifts with throughout the hockey game. He was all right. He was fine. I know the underlying numbers weren't great. Part of that's Vinny Desharnais, and the underlying numbers are rarely great with him, and he's very much a work in progress. Irf and I sort of laughed on rink wide. The first touch of the puck for Brandstrom was basically a grenade from Desharnais, just offloading some pressure, and Brandstrom was able to make a play and get out of trouble. Doesn't get scored on, and they win a hockey game. I mean, all of those things to me are baby steps in the right direction. Didn't hurt the hockey club in any way. Yeah, I think you have to be prepared to live with a few defensive miscues from a player like that, but the trade-off hopefully is spending less time in his own zone, moving the puck, transporting the puck, whatever. So, yeah, I think for a first look at him, it was all right. Mm-hmm. And we'll see where it goes. I think Forbert's going to be away from the team, certainly in Philadelphia, maybe right through the road trip. So it would look like there's going to be more opportunities. You know, he hadn't played an NHL regular season game since last year. So maybe he's able to shake off the cobwebs and a little bit of rust. I would think that he would get better with another opportunity here. So I would imagine he stays in the lineup. Does Rick Tocchet tamper with a winning lineup? I would say no, and try and build off what they accomplished down in Sunrise.
Last night featured the first fight in NHL history between two Latvians. It was Teddy's Blugers, and I am going to give him the S for this, versus Uvis Balinskis. Big hugs afterwards. Didn't even realize they were fighting a fellow countryman when it first went down. And milestones. Our old friend Luke Shen with 1,000 games, and Tyler Myers is going to join him in the 1,000-game club tomorrow in Philadelphia. You and Irf Gaffar are going to have rink wide tomorrow after the game. Of course, it's an afternoon start. We will be down at Greta Bar. Come join us. Doors at 3, nationgear.ca for your tickets. Jeff, you're pinch hitting today on the Bet365 Bets of the Day. This segment proudly brought to you by Bet365. What do you got for us today? Where are you leaning on your pick?
Well, before we get to that, because you make a point of charting errors and omissions, I do have to say that Irf is going to be a healthy scratch on Saturday afternoon. So Patrick Johnson, PJ, is going to slide in and be my co-host on Rink Wide. I think Irf's going to be at the viewing party, but taking the afternoon off. So, we'll have PJ in. We'll have some fun with him. And just quickly on Teddy Bluger, in the absence of goals from others, like who had Teddy Bluger with 2 goals this early in the season when PD's still looking for his first and Jake DeBrusk, but if they're not scoring a ton, they'll take contributions from guys like Teddy Bluger lower in the lineup. He scored against Philadelphia. They got a point out of that game, scores in Florida, and they win that hockey game. So those are not meaningless goals. They're contributing to victories. So the fight, didn't really see that one coming. But hey, you do what you do, I suppose. We've already seen one Gordie Howe hat trick from a Canuck earlier this year in JT, and almost had another from Teddy Bluger. As for my line of the day, meaningless football game in the grand scheme at BC Place on Saturday. Lions and the Alouettes, and those can generally be tough when it comes to handicapping. Not really sure what you're going to see from either team, but it does feel like the Lions have something to play for here. Like, I know they can't alter their standings, but damn, like personal pride. Let's start right there. Vernon Adams is going to get the start. We'll see what he can do with the opportunity here. So the Lions are 1.5 favorites over the Montreal Alouettes, who've had a terrific season to this point, but not just personal pride. Lions have a chance to finish 500 on the season, which is crazy when you think they were 5-1 at one point. You can get the Lions at 176 on the money line. I do think that somehow, some way, the BC Lions are going to find a way to get a victory, and this might be it for home games. You'd like to see them leave the fans that have supported them through thick and thin, and there's been plenty of both this year, leave them with a something I know that there's a possibility of a Grey Cup on November 17th, but there's a lot of ground to cover between now and then. So they just have to worry about home game against the Alouettes to finish out the regular season.
Yeah, and Alouettes have submitted a depth chart that has a bunch of their starters there. They didn't play Cody Fajardo this past Thanksgiving, but he's listed there as the starting quarterback. You got a bunch of other starters who are listed. We'll see what Montreal decides to do, of course, and the Lions pinning their hopes now on Vernon Adams. Here's the thing. I'm going with another Vancouver team. The Caps need a win tomorrow in Salt Lake. Draw doesn't do them any good. So going to press for goals. I have it on good authority. Listen to the show later. They may give some up because they're going to be shooting for goals. The total there is 2.5, but it costs you $211 to win 100 at that. So not good enough for me. I'm going not over 2.5, not over 3.5, but over 5.5. That's right. Expecting 5 goals at plus 275. And just one program note here. When we conducted the interview with Vanni Sartini that you're going to see later in the program, we were unaware of this new wrinkle that the Caps would not be able to host a Wednesday wildcard game against Portland if that's the way it shakes out because of a previous booking at BC Place, and would have to go down to Portland even as the higher seed for that match. Disappointing, I'm sure, for the Caps and their supporters. Open an account with Bet365 today. Bet on a huge range of markets, so whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code VANBONUS when opening that account. Jeff, thanks for this. Have a great weekend. We'll be watching Rinkwide tomorrow.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Matt.
Rob the hockey.
It's happy hour on Sekeres and Price. Today's beer of the day from Yellow Dog is the Retriever Golden Ale.
Some price from the historic Wall Center, and this segment is powered by Square. If you run a restaurant, you're probably too busy for this ad. You're thinking about how to get more orders flowing and new locations opened, need more customers, keep them coming back. So really, you're already thinking about Square, because Square Restaurant Tech helps more than 400,000 restaurants do all those things and more. So when you're thinking about your restaurant, think bigger and think Square. Go to square.ca and see why Square is big in restaurants. Rob Williams is the national sports editor of the Daily Hive and its Offside Sports vertical. Rob, the hockey guy on Twitter, and he joins us now. Good day.
Good day, gentlemen.
I want to start with a tweet from you last night. Another healthy scratch for Sprong, and I can't say I disagree with the decision. Canucks are trying to refine their identity and can't have him going walkabout in the D zone at inopportune times again. To which J-Pat quote tweet.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
In a good or bad way.
I can't disagree more strongly with Rob, mostly because I just like disagreeing with Rob. But I'll take the trade-off of potential offense for the odd mistake. Had no issue with one scratch the other night, but I'd have put him back in tonight over Nils Amon, who contributes on the Quinn Hughes goal. You want to spike a football here?
J-Pat just wants to see summer hockey. He just is good, all good with Sprong, just wandering about the defensive zone.
Wow. He's doubling down. He's doubling down.
Just all that. I saw people try to pin one of the goals against on Nils Amon. I had to defend Amon, suddenly my guy, I guess. Now.
Yeah, you will not take this Nils Amon slander.
That's right. I thought he was in the right position. It was a bad bounce. No, I mean, my reasoning for that, guys, is I think there's going to be a spot for Sprong on this team. I think he needs a lot of work. I don't, I like to say like finding defensive mistakes, other than just bad pass or, something like that, just like for someone standing in the wrong spot, it's very rare that fans and media can pinpoint those with regularity, right? Like when Rick Tocchet in the past was talking or Bruce Boudreau talking about Nils Höglander's defensive play, it's really hard to find what was it that they don't like or Kuzmenko, it's not like people are going, oh geez, he wasn't getting in on the forecheck here or there. It's really hard to pinpoint because these are really subtle things. A lot of it depends on your your defensive system or just your forechecking system. So if you're in the wrong spots, it's really hard without having that prior knowledge of the specifics of the system to know exactly what a player has done wrong. Except with Daniel Sprong, like his 2 goals in the first 2 games were so glaring, so obvious. It was like I would get mad at someone on my beer league team for being that far out of position in the D zone. So like to me, this was like really like red flags galore. This is not just like subtle mistakes in the D zone. This is like, okay, this player knows that this is his issue. He knows that this is the reason why he had trouble getting a contract in the summer, and he comes out the first couple of games and does that. So that's, for me, that's why I was totally fine with Sprong sitting for a couple games here, because I think the problems with Sprong were also a little bit indicative of the problems with the Canucks, where, as Rick Tocchet was saying, playing summer hockey, playing loose like they did under Boudreau, they need to rein that in. And I think when everyone around Sprong is kind of tightened up defensively and playing the way that Tocchet wants them to play, that's the time to insert Sprong, and you can insulate them a bit more.
I don't want 15 minutes on Daniel Sprong v. Niels Amon, but that line was caved in. Niels Amon's line is, and to counter your astute observations about his defensive play, he needed 1 second to put a puck in the net on opening night. So he does provide you something to overshadow his defensive liability. So to me, it's just all about usage, right? It's put him in positions to succeed, in positions where he's not going to hurt you as much as he can. And I still think you come out on the positive end of things, having a skilled offensive player like that in sheltered minutes.
That's his way of saying he's team J-Pat Rob, but don't worry, I've got your back, buddy. Okay, me and you versus them in a tag team cage match.
25% Corsi last night for Niels Amon.
I think ultimately, yeah, but like, I mean, what kind of minutes was he getting versus what Sprong would be getting, right? Like,
they'd be the same.
When someone, I think it was Daniel Wagner pointing out Niels Amon on one of those goals, and I replied, like, Daniel Sprong would have been standing at center ice, like, having a stick on the ice for a breakaway pass.
Yes.
Like, where would he have been on that?
Yes.
Where would he have been on that play, right? I don't know. I ultimately, I think you're gonna be right, Blake. Like there is a spot for Sprong on this team. I just think that with the pressure ramped up, you're going into Florida, yet you don't have a win, and you're really trying to tighten things up. I think that's the time where, okay, you've got to like bear down defensively and get things right. And I think Sprong will be on this team. I think he'll contribute, but I do think it's going to have to be in sheltered minutes, because as we've seen, until he's, I think, proves otherwise, he's going to have to be in more of a shelter.
Hey, I mean, Darren sat for a couple games, came back in and was fine, right? Like, I mean, I think he got the message from Rick Tocchet to the best of his ability. It's not like a guy like that can all of a sudden become all world, but he was much more within himself, it felt like, and probably time for Sprong to put to work all the things that he's been thinking about now over the past couple of games too. So we'll see.
It's Lankinen time now.
I think so. I mean, I think Lankinen's obviously outplayed Shilov's in their first 2 starts, but I do wonder what the team's going to do next. I think most people expected that Lankinen, based off his first game of the season, that he would have played in Tampa. He didn't get that start, and they just continue alternating. I do wonder, like, if you look at this from like a long-term lens and think about what we were thinking about Shilov's just a matter of 10 days ago. And now what everyone thinks about him now after just 2 games, is it a little reactive to stop alternating starts? I think there is something to be said for, hey, continue alternating starts on this road trip. When you get back home, maybe you make more of a decision after a bigger sample size. But I don't know why you would, to be honest. Now, I think you need wins. These points are important. You don't want to go down. You don't want to be coming home with a 4 games below 500 sort of thing. So I do think I would go with Lankinen and see how he plays. Maybe you then come back with Shilov's for the easier game, easier on paper game in Chicago. Maybe Lankinen plays amazing and you just ride him, right? I don't think that you should be in a position right now where you have to be too concerned about feelings and whatnot. But I do, while at the same time, I do think, okay, geez, how quickly do you change course just because of a bad game here or there? Shelov's let in 3 against Tampa. I mean, that's not like a horrible night or anything like that. But I think Lankinen just looks so steady right now, and he's giving them a chance to win both games.
I've been saying you're in a can't lose situation here. You put Lankinen back in. If it's meh, you go back to Shilov's. If it's great, then you ride Lankinen again. It's they've got a solution no matter how it goes versus Philly.
Yeah, I'm with Rob.
That's what Rob basically said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'm with Rob again.
Oh
I'm with you a lot in this head.
Just kissing ass though at this point.
One of the we used to joke during the decade of despair that the Canucks led the league. If there was one thing where they were best in class, it was designing theme night jerseys, whether that was Lunar New Year or Black History Month or Diwali. Diwali jerseys are here and they're absolutely gorgeous. And, in years past, there's been a limited run and people could go out and get them, but not anymore, Rob.
Yeah, I feel like the buzz is gone from the Diwali jerseys, at least this year. I'm not hearing a ton about it. I wrote about it and shared it on social media. I think a big part of that is the players are not wearing this in the games. They're not wearing it for the pregame warm up. So I think it's lost a little bit of its luster there. They went with the Orca logo this time. They went with the skate in the past, and I feel like when you go with the skate, I think it tends to be a little bit more popular. So they went with the Orca. It's still a beautiful jersey, but you can't buy it this time, which I thought was interesting. It was. Now,
of course, they had been criticized for the prices of these jerseys in the past, Rob, and that's what I'm wondering whether that played into it at all.
Yeah, I do wonder about that too, and so I'm not really going to criticize. I feel like I have more criticism for them if they're going to sell it for $750, which was the price tag last year. The Lunar New Year jersey was $888 last year. Like, that's outrageous.
That's outrageous. Right? You can't tell me, it's a small batch, so it costs us more. It doesn't cost you that much. There's no chance it costs you that much. Like,
they're selling exclusivity, but what I will say is you need to remit to the artist. Not defending $888. You need to remit to the artist. These were talented local artists that they had commissioned.
But they're still doing that now. They're still doing that now. I'm not getting any money back.
Yeah, mm-hmm. I don't understand how there wasn't a way to, even if you had to make them larger batches. I think these jerseys the last few years would have, there was a huge demand for them. People wanted these jersees.
Can you at least get tees? Can you at least get tees of these jerseys now, like T-shirts?
Yeah. So they've got all the other merchandise, on the website ready to buy. You can buy it, and I've always thought that was the better play, anyways. Like, people love the jerseys. They were always just a beautiful logo on a practice jersey with a fun color, right? They were never the jerseys don't have a ton of design other than the logo. But yeah, I just think about like where this was, like when they first introduced the Diwali jersey. Like, Seth Rogen was on social media asking for someone to, like, he was offering to trade a Diwali jersey for something. So, like, to when they were at the height there, I thought, geez, man, could they not come out the next year and find a way to, at least just for the Diwali jerseys and maybe the Lunar New Year, like the probably the two most popular of the specialty jerseys. I thought there was probably a way to do it. Like, it just seemed like there had to be a way to do it that didn't cost $750. But yeah, so now they're not available at all right now. So I do think that was interesting, but yeah, so I don't know who wears these jerseys. They've got them on someone, and then I guess they're going to give them to dignitaries or whatnot at the game. I don't really know.
I would think so.
Hopefully, Seth Rogen.
Maybe that was it. They were just so expensive in years past that they wound up not selling them all, and they're like, okay, well,
wasn't he offering a bong? I'll trade you one of my world famous bongs.
Well, no, he makes ashtrays
and vases that I think are bongs. I think.
I would have remembered. I looked it up, and I didn't have bong in the headline of my article. I wouldn't have missed a chance for Seth Rogen's bong in the
He's
headline.
he's a big pottery fan with that show of his. He likes pottery.
Well, he does pottery.
Yeah,
he talked about it.
Yeah. I think I know where that
For
love
all
of
his,
pottery.
he
came
needed
from,
ashtrays for all his joints,
and
so he picked up pottery and he started making ashtrays.
Mm-hmm.
And no, Rob Williams would not have missed an opportunity to put Seth Rogen in lights. You know why? Clicks.
Oh.
Thanks, Rob. Have an amazing weekend. We'll catch up next week.
You too, guys. Thanks.
It's happy hour on Sekeres and Price. Today's beer of the day from Yellow Dog is the Retriever Golden Ale.
Vancouver Whitecaps FC are finishing up a strong season and heading to their final regular season match against Real Salt Lake this Saturday. Tomorrow, it all goes down. And here's the thing. It's coming down on the wire on decision day. We've talked about it. The Caps have officially clinched a playoff spot. Playoff tickets on sale shortly. And you, as an audience member of Sekeres and Price, you can get in on the exclusive presale. Text CAPS to 604-305-4530. And for more information, visit whitecapsfc.com. And we welcome in their head coach, who... Are you okay, Vanni Sartini?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Because I saw your press conference last week, and I was like, boy, he sounds angry. Like I know him to be a Vita Bella guy, but he wasn't so happy after the game last week.
Well, I was beyond angry. I think I was more than upset, very devastated, I would say, like this. So it's I actually I'm really happy that I was able to say, "Yay, let's stop talking, and I'll talk with you Tuesday instead of," because I was just rambling nonsense, probably.
It would have made even a single point probably would have made your life a little bit easier, but the 3 points on that night would have made your life so much easier, just in terms of certainty, wouldn't it have?
Yeah, and we deserved the 3 points clearly. So we played better, and it was a very important game, and because it would have put us in a condition to, almost clinch the top 7 that avoid us doing the wild card, the playing game, but unfortunately we didn't. So we need to try to go and win in Salt Lake and hope that Minnesota loses. So
you've always got great ideas about the schedule and stuff. We talked to Axel about this, and he said, "Hey, they didn't like how it all went down, but there's really where do you stuff the Canadian Championship? Where do you do any of these things? Have you been able to put any sort of thought to how the schedule could have laid out better, that you could have had one of your 7 starters in the lineup?"
The only thing that I don't understand about the schedule is we have some chunk of the season, like the first part and some other part in the right after summer, where we don't have any midweek games, and then we have all the midweek games back to back. I don't understand why they do like this. So I think that the ideal thing for me would be, let's say, you have game 1 on Saturday, game 2 the next Saturday, then game 3 Wednesday, game 4 the following Saturday, and then a week again. And then in this way, the midweek game would be much more, I would say, put on the entire calendar, and we maybe have some possibility to play games, even make-up games like it was this game.
Yes.
Not in an international break. That's my only idea.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. The Wednesday, the midweek games, you're right, could be spaced out a little bit more through the calendar, and quite frankly, and then this year, obviously, Vanny, you guys went like a month without playing, and then all these games in rapid fire succession. Anyways, enough about the schedule. Vite doesn't even make the 18 for Ecuador. He goes all that way to not even make the 18, Vanny.
That is what it is. It's the rule. So the FIFA, the national teams are allowed to call 26 players, and they are in the right to decide who plays and who doesn't play. And there are some national team, of course, when you're close, like Canada, for example. that we have a very close relationship, and when we talk with their technical staff and say, they understand their needs and they're going to take a player if they need a player. But with others it's impossible,
Right?
And you need to be also in their shoes too. That it's their World Cup qualification, so they want to have 26 players in case someone is going down and everything. So
Let me ask this though about the Canadian side, which of course you have a closer relationship with. Like, this was a friendly, for Adekube and Ahmed. They could have been really meaningful to you guys on the pitch on Sunday. Did you have any discussion with Jesse and the staff there and say?
No, because it's the other way around. It's so important for Sam and Ali to be part of the national team because it's so important for their development. It's so important for their career. It's so important that I think having this discussion, it would be, first of all, hurting my players. So in the long run, that would be like Moody and Longface against us. And again, in the long run, it's things that are helping the club because the player plays on an international stage and they become better players and so on. And also we showcase this player, and when we sell Ali, maybe we're going to get 10 million instead of 2 million.
I was about to say very selfless of you, Coach, but you brought it all back to
all right. So you get
brass tacks in the bottom line.
You've got all those 6 players back now. Do you suspect that all 6 jump into the 11? What's the prognosis also for Stewart?
We will see. The 2 most problematic thing are Andres and Pedro, because Andres arrived yesterday, and Pedro, because of bad weather, missing connection and everything, he actually arrived this morning.
Oh gosh!
So after it looks like Ulysses when and we need to check on their condition, but they are available. They will travel with the team, and if they're not starting, they will be on the bench. All the other guys, so the 2 Canadians, Fafa, Goldie, they arrived at a reasonable time. So it's just a way to see, if we want to play them or not.
Blake and I were talking about this yesterday. Do you have to lean on all your best guys for as many minutes as they can give you, or do you coach it with an eye of, hey, we are in the playoffs and the next game matters more than this one?
I would say both. So that's one thing. That's one thing that is important. That is the fact that it's not just on us. So we need to win, but also Minnesota needs to lose in order to skip around.
Right.
And so of course we will try to win, but if at the end of the first half we all play at the same time, Minnesota's winning 5-0, we probably start thinking about Wednesday, because that's when we'll play. And instead, if the game is still open, we will go for it till the end.
But hosting is also on the table for you, so that's the third factor.
No, that's not about winning, trying to win. It's not about using player in a certain way. It's not that you throw away the game. Like you can decide to use the player for 60 minutes or for 30 minutes or for 45 minutes in order to win the game, and at the same time in order to have him kind of fresh in case you play on Wednesday. So
and you can check that Seattle-Portland score too at halftime and see what's happening there. So
of course, even though maybe I'm wrong, but I'm more confident that Seattle's going to beat Portland, that St. Louis is going to be Minnesota. That's my sensation now.
Yes, yes. Stu's health is how's the calf doing?
Stu is healthy. He trained fully yesterday. Will train fully today, so it will be part of the traveling party for sure.
Good to hear.
Well, I'd still love to see you pacing the touchline at BC Place at least one more time this year, Vanny.
Yeah.
Home is Vancouver, as you taught us.
I got my timing wise, it was perfect. I got my 3rd yellow last game, so I'm out this game that is away. So if we play home, I'm I would say
You're back, baby.
I'm guaranteed to be on the sideline. So yeah, no, that's what we want to do. To be honest, guys, it's in terms of being confident of doing a playoff run. Of course, we would love to skip the playing game, but even if we have to do the playing game, I think that our chances are there, because I think that it's the only team that at the moment looks like very, very, very in tune is Seattle, in my opinion. That is kind of really hard to play, and they will probably arrive third. So us arriving 7th or 8th, we are the chance to play the conference final against Seattle. So let's be optimistic about it.
Wow. So where will you watch the game then tomorrow?
I will be probably in a booth, and I'm gonna be with the team. Unfortunately, the first 4 games of the season I was out, so we're pretty well versed in this routine with Mike. And and another thing that I want to, in Italian we say there's no 2 without 3. The other 2 games that Mike was on the road, we and Mike was on the bench, we won. So let's make it the 3rd.
Yeah, this is Mike D'Agostino, if you're not familiar, who Danny's right-hand man, trusted assistant. You're mini-me almost, right? Yeah, he will coach this game exactly as you would coach it. Is that fair to say, Vanny?
Yeah, probably with less explosion of rage, hopefully, but
fewer yellows. Yeah. Hey, if San Jose can march
in terms of soccer choices, probably yes.
If San Jose can march into RSL and get a 2-0 win, you guys sure as hell can, right?
Yeah. We can do it. That's the other possibility, that we have to win with 3 goals, and then in that case,
that's right.
The
draw works. Yeah,
the draw there. So yeah, that's another thing that we need to explore. Let's say if you are up at the end of the first half, and the other game is still tied, we go for it.
Go for goals.
Yes. Well, and that's the great thing tomorrow for a Caps supporter and a viewer. You have to win, and you may have to go for goals, so it could be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Down there,
we will play the most offensive team possible. To be honest, we show last week against LAFC, even missing 7 players, that when we are on the front foot, when we are aggressive, when we are fearless. Even LAFC, that we're playing with 2 World Cup winners, Bogusz, Tillman, all these good players, that we were clearly the better team on the field. So yeah, I think it's the only recipe for us to be effective, be as aggressive and as on the front foot as we can.
Wish you the best of luck, Coach.
Thank you.
We will see you at BC Place next week.
Yes,
okay?
we will. Okay, cool, fantastic.
Price from the historic Wall Center. Let's check the Great Clips inbox. Onto the people we go. You can text us 778-402 9680 or live at sekeresandprice.com. What are the people talking about this?
There's a lot of talk about Elias Pettersson and a lot of talk about the defense core. Beerman Posse on YouTube. Kuzmenko trade puzzles me. He had great chemistry with Pito. Got 40 goals. Gave him away for nothing at the end. And now they want top 6 forward talent like Kuzi. Very hard to replace. And Tyler Myers sucks.
No. They don't want top 6 talent like Kuzmenko. That's the point. They want players who they can trust to play a reliable defensive shift as well. That's why Dennis Sprong isn't playing right now.
Here's a theory from Smarty. Petey is skilled enough to walk around all 5 guys in the other team. He simply needs big hulking guys to protect him from getting constantly hit from behind and knocked to the ice all day. Trade for Delorier in Philly. You'll see results. The guy needs protectors because everyone in the league knows he has skinny, wobbly legs.
Yeah, no. Not that class of player. I have let my mind wander. Do they absolutely need to get a big power forward, a Bertuzzi style player with them? I think that'd be very interesting. A guy with hands, a guy who can actually play his game, finish some of his passes. Of course, those players don't grow on trees. So,
and then there's uneducated tinfoil. Great handle. Just being honest with himself, which is good. Yeah. Would rather Zadorov than Myers and Desharnais combined.
Well, Blake, this is a recrimination that I think we're going to be hearing more about if the Canucks struggle defensively, if they're having trouble getting the puck out of their own zone.
Remember, Zadorov is a lefty. So if Zadorov's a righty, I'm fully on board with this. But then you've got Susie and Zadorov on the left side. Who do you have on the right?
Yeah. And of course, while Zadorov and Ranstrom too have played some right side, Coach Tocchet foot seemed hesitant.
Yeah.
To try that. With more than 4,400 salons throughout the United States and Canada, Great Clips is the world's largest hair salon brand and official hair salon of the National Hockey League. Salons locally owned, operated, open 7 days a week. Your time is valuable. Use the Great Clips check-in app. See the wait times. Check in on your phone and get your haircut when you want. For more information, check out greatclips.com. All right, we heard from Vanni Sartini there on the Whitecaps. It's a very big weekend for both the Caps and the Lions, as we know, both of them playing their regular season finale. The Lions at home versus Montreal tomorrow, the final regular season game at BC Place. They're hoping to play another game at BC Place, but that would have to be the Grey Cup game in a month from now. And, of course, they're making the change at quarterback, one last-ditch effort here to see if they can turn around a 3-8 record after that fantastic 5-1 start. It gets them to 500 at the very least. We know they're going to be playing in either Saskatchewan or Winnipeg in the West semifinal. They have hosted that game the last 2 years. I saw our friend Farhan Lalji of TSN and Milt Stiegel, the CFL and TSN panelists, getting into it with regards to Adams, Rourke, and the changes that have been made here. They are 5-3 this year under Vernon Adams. They're 3-5 under Nathan Rourke. One of the, of course, Dolegala played the one game,
but a moot game here. Like what's
it's more about vibes and momentum and a 500 record.
But what do you believe though? So let's say this: Vernon Adams throws for 280 with 2 touchdowns.
They're averaging 308 passing yards under Adams. That is 86 more than what they averaged under Nathan Rourke.
So let's say he throws for 280 with 2 touchdowns. What do you do in the semifinal?
Oh, you are playing Vernon Adams if he wins this game. I think it is that simple.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you win it in the most ugly Deckling fashion where it's all defense and special teams, or unless you win it with Rourke coming in off the bench because Adams is struggling.
Yeah.
You win this game, you are playing Vernon Adams, starting Vernon Adams in the semifinal. Adams this year, 14 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. With Rourke, 4 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. It is a slight edge to Nathan Rourke on the completion percentage, but that's about it. Every other metric points to Vernon Adams. And as you were mentioning earlier in the week, Blake, I mean, there was MOP talk about this guy a third of the way through the season. And look, their struggle started before he got hurt. They continued after they made the move to Rourke, but it very much looks like the decision to bring Nathan in and drop him in when Adams was having this terrific season unsettled that club for whatever reason.
Another situational question for you.
Okay.
It's 21-7 at the half for the Lions. They score in their first possession out of the half. It's 28-7 middle of the third quarter. Does Adams finish the game, or do you get Nathan in there to keep him sharp enough?
I will quibble with your premise. if in the fourth quarter it is clear they are going to win the football game,
right,
then you may consider getting Nathan Rourke some live reps.
Right.
Let's also remember this game is meaningless for the Montreal Alouettes. They have first place clinched in the East Division. They could very well play with their lineup as well, where they take some starters out.
Which is why
you don't even dress some starters.
Which is why you got to be careful with anointing Vernon Adams the starter based on what you see here.
For
because
sure, but Blake, what's the alternative?
No, I hear
you're going to sit him after a win.
Yeah,
no, to go back to a guy who's 3-5 with
and
4 touchdowns
himself.
and 9 interceptions. Yeah, exactly. So, Javon Cotoy did not make it. He practiced limited this week. Was hoping to play. He's going to join Ciante Evans, Adrian Green, Tyler Packer, who are out. TJ Lee will play. One change on the lineup. The Canadian linebacker Patrice Rene back from injury. Mostly a special teams move in place of the fullback Dylan St. Pierre.
Do you think TJ Lee hears anything about wearing the Titan head or whatever it's called, the big head? I think it's become normal now.
I would like to think that there is a broad enough understanding amongst football players and concussions and CTE that is not a topic. I would also probably guess that it is a topic with opposition players on the field.
Yeah, that's what
not
I'm
with
saying.
teammates,
Yeah.
but yeah,
But 5 years from now,
no way.
is
It'll be
it half the team?
it'll be like wearing a shield in the NHL.
But are we going to get to 22, 24 players out there?
I think
wearing them?
I think the day is coming where every football player will have that on. Yes, yes, I do.
Yeah, I think so too.
They look silly now, but they look silly because we're not accustomed to.
You know what? Makes TJ Lee look adorable. Like he becomes like my kids have got those sort of cartoony dolls of famous people that big heads, small bodies. That's what he looks like. He looks
You know what it
adorable.
reminds me of? Reminds me of Toad from Mario Brothers.
A little bit.
Quite bulbous.
Yeah, a little bit. But I'm glad he's wearing it. Good for him.
Yeah. I hope you saw a ball game in Cleveland last night.
I didn't. I saw highlights, but yeah.
So as Blake likes to say, you have some Google homework if you missed the Guardians' comeback in the 9th inning against the Yankees last night. Down to their final strike, it's 0-2 on Lane Thomas. Luke Weaver, the Yankees closer on the mound. Thomas works it back to a full count and then hits a ball that's inches away from being a home run. It goes for a double off the top of the wall. And good thing it was a double and not a home run, because that set the stage for rookie Jhonkensy Noel and a no doubt 2-run game-tying home run. He went into that at-bat 1 for 16 as a pinch hitter in his brief major league career. The one hit was a home run. Well, now he's 2 for 17 with 2 home runs. The Spanish language broadcast is a must listen. Blake, the kid's last name is Noel. Feliz Navidad.
Is that what it was?
Oh, you've got to go look it up. And how about this? They win in extra innings on a David Fry home run. Optistat, Major League Baseball history, only one player has hit a 2-out, 2-strike, go-ahead home run in the 7th inning or later twice in his postseason career. David Fry. And both have come within the last 8 days, and both times he did not start the ball game. He came in at some point to pinch hit. So extraordinary stuff, which really has pepped up the ALCS now, because the Yankees were about to go 3-up, right? Nobody blows the 3-up lead unless you're the Yankees of 04 against the Red Sox. And boy, the Dodgers just look too much for the Mets in the NLCS, where it's now 3 games to 1. Poll question results from Thursday is tonight the night Elias Pettersson bumps the slump. Like, what do the people say?
People said yes.
They said no.
Oh.
But a lot of people seem to vote in-game.
Yeah.
Although that was a difficult calculation, because he looked like he was going to bump the slump.
He was better.
No, he's a lot better. Alas, did not get any bottom line there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Did he bump the slump or not? I guess we'll see tomorrow.
I bet you the coach
in Philadelphia.
If you ask that explicitly to the coach, I bet you the coach would say, yeah, he did. He looked much better.
And speaking of tomorrow versus Philadelphia, join us at Greta Bar, YVR, for our first Canucks Army watch party of the season. Tickets available at nationgear.ca. Doors open at 3, puck drop at 4. We got prizes, trivia, and we're supporting the BC Mental Health Foundation. So please come on down and join us. Greta Bar, 50 West Cordova. Doors at 3 p.m. Errors and omissions from yesterday's program. There's a few things we have to clarify from our Adnan Virk hit. First of all, he had the Canucks at 0-2-1, not 0-1-2.
Yes, right.
2017, Adnan is hosting the Oscars stream when you'll remember Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway screwed up the winner of Best Picture. They announced La La Land when really it was Moonlight.
Yeah.
So Adnan is by the stage with his crew, wrapping up the broadcast and talking about, he's a news guy.
They're in the mezzanine. You can see the velvet curtain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Adnan's a news guy, so he's like, what? This night will be remembered for, a screw up of the Best Picture. Like, the La La Land director actually went on stage looked at the card and went, we didn't win. Moonlight, you guys won. Come on up. So he's highlighting this when his colleague says, still a great night, Adnan, still a great night. And at the time, we just thought, oh, he's just trying to, make the controversy go away. No. 2015, Miss Universe, not Miss America, as I mentioned yesterday. Steve Harvey accidentally announces Miss Columbia as Miss Universe. They crown her ass. To quote Denny Green. That was an anniversary this week. They put the tiara on Miss Columbia.
Oh, my gosh.
And then Steve Harvey has to go, wait a second, no, Philippines. They take the tiara off Colombia and they put it on Philippines. And he finishes the broadcast with, still a great night. So anyways, if you were not following along with that with Adnan yesterday, that's where it all comes from.
And they were accused at the time of just trying to create a viral moment for the Miss Universe pageant, which, of course,
at the expense
we tend to
Miss
not keep
Colombia,
track of. Yes.
Adriana Gutierrez.
She's got feelings.
Well, women were outraged, though.
Yeah.
You can't put a tiara on her
No.
and then take it off.
You can't
within that moment.
You can't de-tiara.
No.
I also, just as a quip, said, hey, we're all 50-year-olds. None of us are 50. So
one of us is close, though. Good self-reporting, Blake.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you connecting with us and spending some time. Please do subscribe to all our assorted channels, including YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Follow on social. That's X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. And of course, we're live on many of those platforms, noon Pacific time, weekdays. Please support the community sponsors we tell you about. Thanks for listening, watching. Keep it local. Hey, everybody. If you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres and Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well.